seekers of North America and beyond. Yay, we're back. Welcome. Team Dale is now in effect. I have my cute little cowboy outfit on. Thank you very much. So, how are we doing today? I am really good. Except for the fact that I swore I'd clean this up before I turned the camera on again. Did I? No. Hold on. Okay, I cleaned up my room. But welcome back. Thursday, very exciting. So, quick check-in. How am I doing? How am I feeling? I'm making my contacts, but I am really feeling the new schedule, right? I am feeling the pressure of 10 contacts a day because those 10 contacts a day lead me to new conversations, new appointments, and new opportunities, right? So suddenly, my scheduling starts to hit a kind of critical mass where I can only do so much, and I'm scheduling all these things throughout the day on top of what I already have going on and work, right? So that's when you start to feel the reality of your new schedule, right? It's always around week 3, you start to have a bit of a breakdown when you're taking something that's not a habit yet and outside your comfort zone and working through that barrier, right, towards a new habit, towards something that is second nature, just something you don't even think about, you don't stress about it, it just becomes part of your life. But I'm not there yet, right? Next week is gonna probably be even more intense, right? Because the work I'm doing this week is now scheduling into next week, and then next week when I'm trying to schedule things and talks and conversations and things like that, where do I have to go? So that's when we start looking at the quality of the appointments that we're setting, right? In the beginning, you're just happy to get an appointment, to just have a conversation. But then, as you start to build up more opportunities for conversations and talks, you have to qualify that so that you're doing the most important work first, right? I had some really encouraging and exciting calls this week. Right, I had a conversation with another author who I've been friends with for a while and has been on a similar path to me. And he and I had a conversation yesterday because he sat down and wrote 2 novels that are in the genre of kind of youth fiction with pictures. I forget what it's called exactly, but you know, that kind of anime thing where they have photos or drawings that go along with the storybook, right? Anyways, so he was all excited about that, and I'm all excited about my books. The first one called Foreign to Me, which I'm still going through edits, but will be published this year. And he and I got to talking, and that his process for writing his books was the same as mine. The process for me writing my books was transformative in so many ways. And it's like I talked about before, the process of writing the books has become as valuable to me as the assets, the books themselves. And I didn't know that. And that's kind of what I discovered and kind of what I want to move in the direction of in terms of helping people through their trauma, especially those who have been affected by faith-based trauma. Right? We need to start having more conversations around that. Because when you're 8 years old and you grow up in a household where gay people are referred to as from the pit, that's abuse. My parents didn't know they were abusing me. They didn't know they had a queer person growing up in that household. And they talked about queer people in the same manner that every other church person talks about queer people. All right? Maybe that's changing. Good for you. Maybe it's not. How can you say? How can you say what conversations are happening in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia? Because that's where I grew up. That's where that language that came down through churches landed in my lap. Because my parents were taught homophobia through institutionalized bigotry in their church. They didn't know that. I didn't know that. But we know better now, so we have to do better now. And we have to call it out, because that is abuse of people who are born onto the queer spectrum. To language that kind of horrific slight against that person's humanity, right? That just can't be. And that's much of the work that I'm doing here, and much of what my books are about. So I started talking to my friend, and he was like, I discovered this process. Well, actually, how the conversation went is I said I discovered this process of channeling information, which is what I do. That's one of my gifts, if not my strongest gift, is to channel information that I get from beyond me, through me, onto the page. I didn't write my books. I want to be clear about that. I had a hand in it. I was the vessel for it. It was typed with my fingers, but it was through that process that I discovered that I could channel information. Now, I always knew this. I always knew this because I don't just get ahas. I get complete universal downloads, a package of information delivered to me in one solid second that changes the entire landscape of my understanding. That's what I do. That's where my gift is. And I hope, well, yeah, I really hope that people get that, and I think that they do, because everybody I've put the work in front of who works in the industry has said that I have a gift. Okay, and again, like, I don't want to just be up here tooting my own horn and saying, wow, like, aren't I amazing? But at the same time, I have to own what's true for me. And what's true for me, like I said to my friend, is that I discovered a way to channel information from beyond me. And how do I know that? Because there were so many times I was writing the book where, and again, this process helped me tune into that quiet voice, the quiet voice of spirit, right? That directs thoughts, that is inkling, right? And it would show me the story, and I'd start writing it down, and there were so many times where I didn't understand why it was asking me or telling me to do a certain thing. And then 3 or 4 chapters later, that question was resolved, and it blew me away, because it was so much more intelligent than anything that I could have come up with. So that's where I feel like I was having help, assistance, guidance through that process. But I was also asking for that guidance. I was also asking for my mind to be directed, my mind to be open to whatever the universe wanted to present to me, that I could be a vessel, right, for the work. Because I'm very serious about changing the vibration of the planet. And I know I still have a long ways to go, so that I'm bringing more love into the world than angst, right? So I told my friend that this is the process that I discovered for writing these books for myself. And he said, wow, I've just gone through the same transformative process, and I also channeled the information for my books. So, you know, I was kind of blown away by that, and I'm super inspired to read his work and see what he's getting from beyond us, right? We're pulling information, right, that we didn't even necessarily know before, but it comes through us and it lands on the page, right? So that's what I'm doing, and I wanted to share a little bit, not only of my process of the books, but also of the work themselves, because I feel like these books are important. I feel like there are real answers here. The first book of the 3, it's a trilogy, is the main character, Jack, who is loosely based on my life, how he essentially conquers himself. He's a character that is queer, has dystonia like I do, has come from a horrific religious abusive background, right? And his struggles have been my struggles. But it was interesting to take my problems and my brain and put it on another. Because what that does is that gives me a space gap between me and my ego and my problems. That gives me the opportunity to look at this thing from an arm's length distance and say, okay, what's going on here for real? What's going on here? Right? Looking at my brain, right? My problems, my issues from an arm's length distance. When you find that type of a space gap between your story, right, that you tell yourself as truth, and actual possibilities of other realities, ooh, that's when it gets interesting. That's when you can take it out and look at it and examine it, see what purpose is it serving in your life, see how it's still calling the shots, see how it's still affecting your everyday process. Is this something I want? Not only that, what's in it? I was shocked to discover that my purpose was down in there. The thing that ties me to inspiration was down in there. So that's what I want to do to help others to discover, right, the gifts of our trauma. Because I promise you, I see my trauma now. The moments when, at my father's funeral, my mother told me the reason that my dad is dead is because I'm gay. To take my trauma and hold it and find its purpose. To look for the gems in that bucket of bullshit, because they're there, right? There's nothing more clarifying to us of how we operate and who we are than to discover who we are whilst in trauma, right? There's real gems there. There's real purpose there. There are real lessons there. So I'm going to be working on a course that is called The Problem is the Portal. Anyone think that sounds fun? Because I do, right? I want us to journey to the basement of our personal hell, to discover what's there, to diffuse the radioactive nature of what trauma is and how it lives within us, right? That's where I want to go with people. That's what I want to create. So I'm working on that today, this course that will teach people how to do that in a really safe and loving embrace. I feel like I'm that person because I've been there and I discovered this process for myself, and nothing has been as transformative in my life as that. I want to read you a little bit of my book, just the first chapter of the prologue from the first book. Okay? Just take a listen. Foreign to me. Life is a school where you remember what your soul already knows. Anonymous. Standing in the employee parking lot of Plexus Foods, Jack finally opened his eyes and exhaled into the dark Canadian skies. I just don't get it. He had just had the worst day and simply didn't see the point of the exercise anymore. He focused on his star, the North Star. How I wonder what you are. The twist of his mind was steeped in disdain. Because how can you expect me to do this world right when I arrive to it so He didn't finish the thought as his boss's word, ineffective, rung in his working ear. How? Jack shook his head for answers. How does any of this make sense? I thought... He grabbed a joint from his bag and lit it while still mad wondering at the gods. I thought you were supposed to be, conspiring for my success or some bullshit. Jack paused and closed his eyes again, dragging hard, then exhaling smoke. Em told me that. She knows about these things, even if she... Jack didn't want to think on it further, so he stopped and refocused on the night's horizon. I thought in this place we were supposed to learn how to be kind and how to walk each other home, because that's what I learned in your goddamn church. He shouted heavenward. Well, fuck your God! See, I don't think you straight white people get the level of dysfunction and hate that comes from churches. It's like a conversation I was having with my sister the other day. And we both agreed that, relatively speaking, most people operate, wanting to do right in the world. Wanting to do right in the world. But then we broke it down further as to what is a good person. And she thinks that everybody on the planet, if they're trying to do right in the world, is a good person. So I asked her, can somebody who belongs to and funds institutionalized bigotry be a good person? Her answer was yes, mine was no. She has privilege of being a straight white person in the world. I do not. She thinks that Mormons can be good people, that Catholics can be good people, that people who belong to the KKK or white supremacy can be good people because they're trying to do right in the world. To me, if you belong to institutionalized bigotry and you belong to an organization that openly seeks to harm your fellow humans, that's not a good person. That you don't get to sign up for any of those activities, groups, organizations, churches, nothing that has bigotry written into its bylaws and habits. She thinks, because she's not threatened by this type of behavior, that that's okay. That good people belong to the Mormon church, or good people belong to the Catholic church, or any evangelical church that says that, God hate fags. She thinks that that's okay, that you can still call yourself a good person and sleep well at night when you belong to institutions that behave that way. I say no way. And I know that the way that I language things around religion and churches is very different probably for most people, because I have a very, very, very black and white view that if you belong to that nonsense, if you're funding that nonsense, you're not a good person. You are a bigot if you belong to a bigoted organization. How is that unclear? But again, she's not threatened by those people who belong to the Mormon church or the Catholic church, whereas I am. They are a direct threat to my humanity, civil liberties, and marriage. A direct threat. You belong to any of that? You fund any of that? Because what you're doing is you're funding the leaders who believe that, whether you believe it or not. And you don't get to escape that. You don't get to say, well, I'm funding this institutionalized bigotry, but wow, I'm doing life right. No. That needs to end. It needs to end now. And I don't care what the organization is. I don't care, like I said before, if it's your bowling group or your church group. It cannot exist with bigotry in 2022. We need to start calling that out. And while we can't necessarily go after the Pope, we can go after our friends and family who fund the Pope. Right? And that's where it needs to start. All of us need to start taking a much harder line on what we allow in our lives. And so, I know that I'm modeling new language for people, but that is intentional. I intentionally seek to show young queer people how to address friends and family that belong to bigotry. How to shut it down. How to say in no way is that acceptable, in no way. That's gone on for too long. And how many more families are talking about queer people around young queer people who haven't come out yet, who are being damaged? Because that's what's happening. I know, I've been there, I've lived it. Right? And when you're in a household where your humanity is discussed in such a manner, right, that you're wrong, immoral, evil, like, what do you do with that when you're 8 years old? That messes people up for life, okay? And while I've been working at this to reclaim my humanity, to reclaim my personal joy that they stole, right? It's through this work, the work of writing these books, of going to the basement of my personal hell and taking out every single piece and looking at it and examining it. I'm so grateful for this process, for these books. I really hope that they're effective in showing the evolution of the human spirit. From Jack, who comes from a horrifically traumatized background, as you walk through the books, you walk through his brain, you walk through his process, his evolution of where we go when we're so damaged and broken, and how we reclaim our humanity. I want people to listen to this story because it was written in such a way, and this is what I was asking for from beyond me, and this is what I feel like I received. I feel like if you read this story and read Jack's thought process, his evolution of himself as a being, that it will help you evolve. That you can't help but evolve in your process by watching him evolve in his. That his ahas will be yours. That his universal downloads will become yours. Right? So that's what I have going on. That's what I'm excited about. That's why I'm creating Team Dale. Right? And so I need you to come on board. I really do. I need you to share these videos. Right? This is really, really, really important, almost sacred work for me. And I know we haven't gotten into the books a lot, but I wanted to share that a little bit with you because I do feel like that this is going to be one of the most important things that I do in my life because it is a stepping stone to a new life of where I'm going and why I'm going there. All right? I hope you have a beautiful day. Welcome to Thursday. Always happy to have you here. Oh yeah! We always want to finish off with a little joy, right? And don't forget, that joy is up to you. That joy is right there under the surface. Don't go through your day without putting yourself in a place where you are going to guarantee, oh yeah, experience joy. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's do it. Talk to you soon. Bye.